Welcome to First Chapter Friday. I'm Kelly. I'm one of the library assistants here at Lewis County Public Library. And today I'm going to be reading from a favorite author of mine, Ruth Ware. And this is a book that is called In a Dark, Dark Wood. And she is wonderful in suspense, thrillers, and reminds me very much of Agatha Christie, where she gives you a whole list of suspects as you're reading and you're trying to figure out who done it. And so this is the book that I've selected as our First Chapter Friday reading. However, the first chapter in this book is very, very brief, and so I'm actually going to read the prologue and the first two chapters. So this is First Chapter Friday from me, and again, In a Dark Wood by Ruth Ware. She's wonderful at setting up the mood. So before you even start the book, she reminds us of an old Halloween tale that we hear. Let me get these on to make sure. In a dark, dark wood, there was a dark, dark house. And in the dark, dark house, there was a dark, dark room. And in the dark, dark room, there was a dark, dark cupboard. And in the dark, dark cupboard, there was a skeleton. In a dark, dark wood. Prologue. I am running. I'm running through moonlit woods with branches ripping at my clothes and my feet catching on the snow-bowed bracken. Brambles slash at my hands, my breath tears in my throat, it hurts, everything hurts. But this is what I do, I run, I can do this. Always when I run, there's a mantra inside my head, the time I want to get, or the frustrations I'm pounding away against the tarmac. But this time one word, one thought pounds inside me. James, James, James. I must get there. I must get to the road before, and then there it is, a black snake of tarmac in the moonlight, and I can hear the roar of an engine coming, and the white lines shine so bright they hurt my eyes. The black tree trunks like slashes against the light. Am I too late? I force myself down the last 30 yards, tripping over fallen logs, my heart like a drum in my breast. James. And I'm too late. The car is too close. I can't stop it. And I fling myself onto the tarmac, my arms outstretched. Stop! Chapter 1. It hurts. Everything hurts. The light in my eyes, the pain in my head. There's a stench of blood in my nostrils and my hands are sticky. Leonora? The voice comes dim through a fog of pain and I try to shake my head and my lips won't form the word. Leonora, you're safe. You're at the hospital. We're taking you to have a scan. It's a woman, speaking clearly and loudly. Her voice hurts. Is there anyone we should be calling? I try again to shake my head. Don't move your head, she says. You've had a head injury. Nora, I whisper. You want us to call Nora? Who's Nora? Me. My name. All right, Nora, just try to relax. This won't hurt. But it does. Everything hurts. What has happened? What have I done? Chapter 2. I knew, as soon as I woke up, that it was a day for a park run, for the longest route I do, nearly 9 miles in all. The autumn sunlight streamed through the rattan blind, gilding the bed sheets, and I could smell the rain that had fallen in the night, see the leaves on the plane tree in the street below, just turning to golden brown at the tips. I closed my eyes and stretched, listening to the tick and groan of the heating, and the muted roar of the traffic, feeling every muzzle, reveling in the day to come. I always start my morning the same way. Maybe it's something about living alone. You're able to get set in your ways. There's no outside disruptions, no flatmates to hoover up the last of the milk, no cat coughing up a hairball on the rug. You know that what you left in the cupboard the night before will be in the cupboard when you wake up. You're in control. Or maybe it's something about working from home. Outside of a 9-to-5 job, it's very easy for the days to get shapeless, meld together. You can find you're still in your dressing gown at 5 p.m., and the only person you've seen all day is the milkman. There are days when I don't hear a single human voice apart from the radio, and you know what? I quite like that. It's a good existence for a writer. In many ways, alone with the voices in your head, the characters you've created, in the silence, they become very real. But it's not necessarily the healthiest way to live, so having a routine is important. It gives you something to hang on to, something to differentiate the weekdays from the weekends. My day starts like this. At 6:30 exactly, the heating goes on, and the roar as the boiler starts always wakes me up. I look at my phone just to check the world hasn't ended in the night, and then lie there listening to the pop and the creak of the radiator. At 7 a.m., I turn on my radio, already tuned to Radio 4's Today program, and I reach out and flick the switch of the coffee machine, preloaded with coffee and water the night before, carte noire filter grind, with the filter paper folded just so. There are some advantages to the size of my flat. One of them is the fact that I can reach both the fridge and the coffee machine without getting out of bed. The coffee is usually through by the time they finish the headlines, and then I lever myself out of my warm duvet and drink it with just a splash of milk and a piece of toast with Bon Maman raspberry jam, no butter. It's not a diet thing, I just don't like the two together. What happens after that depends on the weather. If it's raining or if I don't feel like going for a run, then I shower, check my emails, and start the day's work. Today was a beautiful day, though, and I was itching to get out, get wet leaves beneath my trainers, and feel the wind in my face. I'd shower after my run. I pulled on a t-shirt, some leggings, and socks, and shoved my feet into my trainers where I'd left them near the door, and then I jogged down the 3 flights of stairs to the street and out into the world. When I got back, I was hot and sweating and loose-limbed with tiredness, and I stood for a long time under the shower, thinking about my to-do list for the day. I needed to do another online shop. I was nearly out of food. I had to go through the copy edits on my book. I'd promised them back to the editor this week, and I hadn't even started them yet. And I should go through the emails that had come from my website contact form, which I hadn't done for ages because I kept putting it off. Most of it would be spam, of course. Whatever kind of verification you put on it doesn't seem to disturb the bots, but sometimes it's useful stuff. Requests for blurbs or review copies. And sometimes it's emails from readers. Generally, if people write to you, it's because they liked the book, although I have had a few messages telling me what a terrible person I am. But even when they're nice, it's still odd and uncomfortable. Someone telling you their reaction to your private thoughts, like reading someone's opinion on your diary. I'm not sure I'll ever get used to that feeling, however long I write. Maybe that's partly why I have to gear myself up for it. When I was dressed, I fired up my laptop and clicked slowly through the emails, deleting as I went. Viagra, a promise to make me satisfy my woman, Russian cuties, and then to Melanie Cho, Kate Derby, Chiamo, Liz, Maria, Kate, Smurfy, Nina Souza, French, Chris, from Florence Clay. Subject, Claire's hen. Claire? I didn't know any Claires except my heart began beating faster. It couldn't be her. I hadn't seen her for 10 years. For a minute, my finger hovered irrationally over the delete button, but then I clicked and I opened up the message. Hi all! For those of you who don't know me, my name is Flo, and I'm Claire's best friend from university. I'm also, a drum roll, her maid of honor. So in time-honored fashion, I will be organizing her hen-do. I have had a word with Claire, and as you can probably guess, she doesn't want any rubber penises or feather boas. So we're going to have something rather more sophisticated, a weekend away near her old college stomping ground in Northumberland. Although I think there may be a few naughty games snuck in under the radar. The weekend Claire has chosen is the 14th through the 16th of November. I know this is very short notice, but we didn't have a lot of choice between work commitments and Christmas and so on. Please RSVP promptly. Love and kisses, and hoping to meet old friends and new very soon. Flo, XXX. I sat, frowning uneasily at the screen, chewing the side of my nail, trying to figure it out. And then I looked again at the to list. There was one name on there that I recognized, Nina DeSouza. Well, that settled it. It must be Claire Cavendish. There was no one else it could be, and I knew, or thought I remembered, that she'd gone to university at Durham. Or maybe Newcastle, which fitted with the Northumberland setting. But why? Why had Claire Cavendish asked me to her hen night? Could it be a mistake? Had this Flo just plundered Claire's address book and fired off an email to anyone she could find? But just 12 people. That meant my inclusion could hardly be a mistake, right? I sat, staring at the screen as if the pixels could provide answers to the questions shifting queasily in my gut. I half wished I'd just deleted it without even reading. And suddenly, I couldn't sit still any longer. I got up and I paced to the door and then back to my desk, where I stood staring uneasily at the laptop screen. Claire Cavendish. Why me? Why now? I could hardly ask this Flo person. There was only one person who might know. I sat, and then quickly, before I could change my mind, I tapped out an email. To Nina DeSouza from Nora Shaw. Subject, hen? Question mark? Dearest N, hope you're well. Must admit I was a bit surprised to see us both on the list to Claire's hen night. Are you going? XX. And then I waited for a reply. For the next few days, I tried to put it out of my mind. I busied myself with work, tried to bury myself in the knotty minutiae of the copy editor's queries, but Florence's email was a constant, distracting presence in the back of my mind, like an ulcer at the tip of your tongue that twinges when you least expect it, the ragged nail that you can't stop picking. The email got pushed farther and farther down in the inbox, but I could feel it there, its unreplied flag like a silent reproach, the unanswered questions it posed, a constant niggle against the background of my daily routine. Answer, I begged Nina in my head as I was running in the park, or cooking my supper, or just staring into space. I thought about calling her, but I didn't know what I wanted her to say. And then, a few days later, I was sitting, having breakfast, and scrolling idly through Twitter on my phone when the new email icon flashed. It was from Nina. I took a gulp of coffee and a deep breath, and clicked to open it. From Nina DeSouza to Norna Shaw. Subject, hen? Question mark? Dude, long time no chat. Just got your email. I was on lates at the hospital. Christ, in all honesty, it's the last thing I want to do. I got the wedding invitation a while back, but I was hoping I'd escape the hen. Are you going? Shall we make a pact? I'll go if you go. NX. I drank my coffee while I looked at the screen, and my finger hovering over reply, but not quite clicking. I'd hoped Nina would answer at least some of the questions that had been buzzing and building in my head over the last few days. When was the wedding? Why invite me to the hen, but not the wedding? Who was she marrying? Hey, do you know, I started, and then deleted it. No, I couldn't ask outright. It would be tantamount to admitting I hadn't the first clue what was going on. I've always been too proud to admit ignorance. I hate being at a disadvantage. I tried to push the question to the bottom of my mind while I dressed and had a shower, but when I opened up my computer, there were 2 more unread emails in my inbox. The first was a regretful no thanks from one of Claire's friends, citing a family birthday. The second was another email from Flo. This time she'd attached a read receipt. To info@lnshaw, UK, from Florence Clay. Subject, Claire's hen. Dear Lee, sorry to chase, but just wondering if you got my email the other day. I know it's been a while since you saw Claire, but she was so hoping you might be able to come. She often talks about you, and I know feels bad that you lost touch after school. I don't know what happened, but she'd really love for you to be there. Won't you say yes? It would really make her weekend complete. Flo, XXX. The email should have made me feel flattered, that Claire was so keen for me to be there, that Flo had gone to such trouble to track me down, but it didn't. Instead, I felt a surge of resentment at being nagged, and a sense of invaded privacy at the read receipt. I felt like being checked up on, spied upon. I shut down the email and opened up the document I was working on, but even as I got down to it, determinedly pushing all thoughts of the hen from my mind, Flo's last sentence hung in the air like an echo niggling at me. I don't know what happened. It sounded like a plaintive child. No, I thought bitterly, you don't, so don't go prying into my past. I had sworn never to go back. Nina was different. Nina lived in London now, and she and I ran into each other occasionally around Hackney. She was as much part of my London life as my reading one now. But Claire was resolutely part of the past, and I wanted her to stay there. And yet a small part of me, a small, nagging part that pricked at my conscience, didn't. Claire had been my friend, my best friend, for a long time, and yet I'd run without looking back, without even leaving a number. What kind of friend did that make me? I got up restlessly and, for want of anything better to do, made another cup of coffee. I stood over the percolator while it hissed and gurgled, worrying at the side of my nail with my teeth and thinking about the 10 years since I'd last seen her. When at last the machine had finished, I poured myself a cup and carried it back to my desk. But I didn't start work again. Instead, I opened up Google and tapped in Claire Cavendish Facebook. There were a lot of Claire Cavendishes, it turned out, and the coffee had gone cold before I found one that I thought might be her. The profile picture was a snap of a couple in Doctor Who fancy dress. It was hard to tell beneath the straggling red wig, but there was something about the way the girl was throwing her head back and laughing that made me stop as I scrolled down the endless list. The man was dressed as Matt Smith with floppy hair and horn-rimmed glasses and a bow tie. I clicked on the picture to enlarge it and stared at the two of them for a long time, trying to figure out her features beneath the trailing red hair. And the more I looked, the more I thought it was Claire. The man I definitely didn't recognize. I was sure of that. I clicked on the About tab, and under Mutual Friends, it said Nina DeSouza. Definitely Claire. And under the relationship header, it said, in a relationship with William Pilgrim. The name made me do a slight double take. It seemed familiar in some indefinable way. Someone from school? But the only William in our year had been Will Miles. Pilgrim. I couldn't remember anyone called Pilgrim. I clicked on the profile picture, but it was an anonymous shot of a half-full pint glass. I pressed the back button and returned to Claire's profile picture, and as I looked at it, trying to work out what to do, Flo's email echoed inside my head. She often talks about you. She'd really love for you to be there. I felt something squeeze at my heart, a kind of guilt, maybe. I had left without looking back, shell-shocked, reeling, and for a long time I'd concentrated on putting one foot in front of the other, keeping going, keeping the past firmly behind me. Self-preservation, that was all I could manage. I hadn't allowed myself to think of everything I'd left behind. Now Claire's eyes met mine, peering out flirtatiously from beneath that red wig, and I thought I saw something pleading in her eyes, something reproachful. I found myself remembering the way she could make you feel like $1 million just by picking you out of a crowded room, remembering her low, gurgling laugh, the notes she'd pass in class, her wicked sense of humor. I remembered sleeping over on her bedroom floor at maybe 6 years old, my first time away from home, lying there listening to the soft purr of her nighttime breath. I'd had a nightmare and wet the bed, and Claire had hugged me and given me her own bear to cuddle while she crept into the airing cupboard to get new sheets and hid the others in the laundry basket. I heard her mother's voice on the landing, low and groggy, asking what was going on, and Claire's swift reply, "I knocked over my milk, Mummy. It made Lee's bed all wet." For a second I was back there, 20 years ago, a small, frightened girl. I could smell the scent of her bedroom, the fustiness of our night breath, the sweetness of the bath pearls in a glass jar on her windowsill, the fresh laundry smell of the clean sheets. "Don't tell anyone," I whispered as we tucked the new sheets in, and I hid my wet pajama bottoms in my case. And she shook her head. Of course not. And she never did. I was still sitting there when my computer gave a faint ping, and another email popped up, and it was from Nina. "What's the plan then? Flo is chasing. Yes to the pact?" I got up and paced to the door, feeling my fingers prickle with the stupidity of what I was about to do. And then I paced back, and before I could change my mind, I typed out, "Okay, deal, XX." Nina's reply came back an hour later. "Wow, don't take this the wrong way, but I gotta say, I'm surprised. In a good way, I mean. Deal it is. Don't even think about letting me down. Remember, I'm a doctor. I know at least 3 ways to kill you without leaving a trace." I took a deep breath, pulled up the original email from Flo, and began to type. "Dear Florence," Flo? ? "I would love to come. Please Thank Claire for thinking of me. I look forward to meeting up with you all in Northumberland and catching up with Claire. Warm wishes, Nora. But Claire will know me as Lee. P.S. Best to use this email address for any updates. The other one is not checked as regularly. After that, the emails came in thick and fast. There was a flurry of regretful reply all no's, all citing the short notice, away that weekend, so sorry I've got to work, family memorial service, Nina, I'll be at a funeral for the next person who abuses the reply all button. I'm afraid I'll be snorkeling in Cornwall. Nina's reply came back to me on that one within 2 minutes. Snorkeling in November. She couldn't think of a better excuse. Man, if I'd known the bar was that low, I'd have said I was stuck down a mine in Chile or something. More work, more pre-engagements, and in between a few acceptances. At last the list was set. Claire, Flo, Melanie, Tom, bit of a surprise that one, Nina's reply back to me, question mark, Nina, me. Just 6 people. It didn't seem many for someone as popular as Claire, at least as popular as she'd been at school, but it was short notice. Was that why she'd invited me, to make up numbers on what she knew could be a barrel-scraping do? But no, that wasn't Claire. Or not the Claire I once knew. The Claire I knew would have invited exactly who she wanted and spun it as so exclusive that only a handful of people were allowed to come. I pushed the memories aside, burying them under a blanket of routine, but they kept surfacing, halfway through a run, in the middle of the night, whenever I was least expecting it. Why, Claire? Why now? If that's piqued your interest, you definitely want to keep reading, and you should check out In a Dark, Dark Wood by Ruth Ware. It's really exciting, and it keeps twisting and turning where you really just have a hard time figuring out what's going on and who the bad guys really are. So I encourage you to read it. Thank you for watching this first chapter Friday. Please tune in next week for the next episode in the series. As always, like, comment, and share our video. You can follow our Facebook page, or you can subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos from the library. Thank you again, and we hope you have a wonderful weekend.